Okay, I see latest arrival. Okay, let's start, and I think then people will join in when they are finishing grabbing the last coffee. So we have heard this morning on the work we've done with the OECD. I think we can be very happy that Philippe took 2 days with us to discuss the outcome of his joint study with us on the role of RTOs for resilience, and especially, I think, for the twin transitions. I think we had a very good discussion in our members meeting yesterday to go a step further on the different roles that he had identified for RTOs. And this morning we had quite an interesting discussion with also industry and regions telling us how they use us. And I think with some RTOs giving some hints on how do they operate and what the challenges are coming forward. But for the European RTOs, because we also have our international members with us this afternoon, for the European RTOs, what is also important is the European framework coming, and I'm not talking framework in RDI framework program, but more in the operating framework. And this is about policy. So we're going to discuss a little bit how the European policy are also impacting RTOs and also utilizing RTOs for having impact. So I think it's on both ways. And we're going to have a few speakers from the Commission first, and then a small panel with three RTO representatives to discuss a little bit those policies and the view on the current policies. So first we're going to start with Thomas Cordas, Director in DG Connect on Digital Excellence and Science Infrastructure. And Thomas could not be with us today, but we have a small video, so let's look at the video.
Dear RTO colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this opportunity to give the European Commission's perspective on Europe's digital transformation and on the crucial role of RTOs in it. For the Commission, the digital transformation, along with the green transition, is one of the major priorities of this decade, which, as you know, we have named the Digital Decade. Digital technologies will be key to strengthening Europe's resilience and ensuring our technological sovereignty, and they are essential to our competitiveness and our prosperity. To realize our vision for the digital decade, we have defined the Digital Decade Policy Programme, where we set a number of ambitious targets to achieve by 2030. Examples include, first of all, in digital infrastructures. We aim to double the EU's share of global production of cutting-edge semiconductors and reach 20% of the global market. We aim to invest in edge and cloud technologies and to have the first European quantum computer. And we aim to have a gigabit connection for all European households and digital access to key public services, along with 5G coverage in all populated areas. Second, in the digital transformation of our businesses, we aim that 3 out of 4 companies should use cloud computing services, big data, and artificial intelligence, and that more than 90% of European SMEs should reach at least a basic level of digital intensity. And we also aim to create at least 250 unicorns in the EU, which represents a 100% increase when compared to the situation in 2021. Finally, in skills, we aim to reach 20 million employed ICT specialists in the EU, with certainly a convergence between women and men, when compared to the 7.8 million that we have in 2019. We are supporting activities in all these areas with ambitious funding programs. Just to name a few, Horizon Europe, InvestEU, EU for Health, and the Connecting Europe facility have certainly very strong digital components. However, it is the Digital Europe program, with its focus on capabilities and capacity building and deployment, which is uniquely placed to answer Europe's digital ambitions. The aim of this Digital Europe program is to bring advanced digital solutions to the market, to benefit citizens and businesses, and in particular SMEs and our public administrations. But for this digital transformation to be fully successful, a team effort is required. and you, RTOs, have a very, very important role to play here. We need your rich knowledge and expertise. We need your experience of bridging the valley of death in order to translate excellent European research results into concrete market opportunities across our economy and society. Let me take a little bit some minutes in the sequel to explain further how I see the contribution that RTOs will make to our digital decade targets that I mentioned before. I will start with semiconductors. Chips are at the core of all digital products, and the digital transformation cannot advance without them. We must secure our supply, especially as all major countries in the world are investing heavily now in this strategic field. We have important assets to leverage on. Europe, as you know, is the global center for chips research. And you, as world-leading RTOs, are spearheading research and innovation in semiconductors, providing the technologies behind some of the world's most advanced chips, developing the European intellectual property, hosting pilot lines, and finally, fostering skills. With the European Chips Act that we published 3 months ago, early February, we aim to strengthen this excellence in research and innovation, and certainly to accelerate the lab to the fab transition, thus sustaining Europe's leadership in semiconductors and in other advanced technologies. A strong message from me to you will be that you will certainly be at the core of this act, to be able to upgrade Europe's pilot lines where new design concepts can be tested and validated. You will not only host some of these infrastructures, but we expect that you will also drive innovation by developing prototype solutions, working closely with our industry and in particular our SMEs. Pilot lines will help create new applications, for example for connected cars, for health, telecommunications, defense or security, just to name a few. They will foster collaboration across the EU, strengthening Europe's semiconductor supply and value chains and certainly the overall ecosystem. They will serve key industrial sectors and hopefully they will create new markets. Chips are also critical for the green transition, striking a very clear balance between energy efficiency and increased computing power. And that is where you have a further big role to play in advancing innovative technologies such as, for example, FD-SOI, which supports significant processing and connectivity capabilities at lower power consumption, and working with European companies to bring them to the market. Likewise, in photonics, you are contributing significantly to a steady flow of innovative concepts for exploitation. The upcoming CHIPS joint undertaking will certainly offer new opportunities to design and manufacture photonics chips, such as LIDARs and medical sensors. A truly digital future would not be possible without quantum technologies and quantum chips. But currently, just to give you an example, there are no standardized design and manufacturing processes for quantum chips. Most of what we have are proprietary designs and essentially one-offs. So developing standardized processes will be an imperative to ensure large-scale industrial uptake and mass market applications of quantum chips. More broadly, we will aim to push the quantum frontiers, notably by investing in, first, innovative design libraries for quantum chips. Second, in quantum pilot lines to bring the design and fabrication of quantum components closer to the well-established processes of the classical semiconductor industry. And third, in testing and experimentation facilities. And here again, you will play a crucial role in realizing the EU's quantum technology ambitions and vision, serving as a bridge between academic work on the one side and fully fledged industrial adoption and testing, while supporting the development of a European quantum ecosystem. But our plans for you do not stop there. Our plans to invest in world-class facilities also extend to artificial intelligence. And as you know, testing and experimenting state-of-the-art AI and robotics-based systems in real-world environments and at scale is an important step to bringing these technologies again to the market. Testing and experimentation facilities can also help AI development in other ways. For instance, by providing regulatory sandboxes to trial products. We will support the creation of such facilities with a focus on manufacturing, on healthcare, on agri-food, and on smart cities and communities under the Digital Europe program, and we are very pleased to see that several of you have already expressed your interest in joining such activities. And finally, for Europe's digital transformation to succeed, its workforce will need opportunities to master the latest technological advances. Again, under Digital Europe, we are supporting a range of actions covering specialist programs and courses. We look forward to seeing you, the RTOs, represented in the consortia that will implement all these actions. I'm also pleased to see that you are already involved in other European efforts, such as the network of AI excellence centers. In conclusion, the outlook for the digital decade is highly promising, but now Europe has to really seize the moment, strengthen its technological leadership, and enhance its industrial competitiveness. To achieve these ambitious goals, it is clear that we must work further together. And here we are really counting on your core mandate and on your values to continue your essential role in Europe's digital transformation, notably in bridging the academic and industrial worlds, and in creating industrial value opportunities. I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a very profitable discussion this afternoon and a lot of success in your role. Thank you very much.
So thanks again to Thomas, and we'll pass the clap to him when we see him next. I think there is quite a lot of work waiting RTOs on digitalization, and I think that was a nice summary to have from Thomas on what the expectation and the directions are. I think a lot of our members are active not only in the digital innovation hubs, but also in the discussion around the European Chip Act and as well in the digital innovation hubs. So very interesting to see what the next steps are on all of these activities. The next speaker should join us in Zoom, so I hope she is connected. I'm looking at the technique now. We see if we have Anna Panagopoulou with us. She's the Director, ERA and Innovation at DG Research and Innovation. So let's see if we can connect Anna with us. Anna, I believe you're on live now. Already. Yes, we can see you. Such a pleasure to have you with us.
Good afternoon to everybody. Pleasure is mine.
So we're very happy to have you, and I think I let you the floor, and then I will probably, with all the news that you have on the work of DG Research and Innovation for us, I'm sure we come up with quite some few questions. So I let you the floor, and then we connect again for questions.
Thank you very much, Muriel, and I would like to express my pleasure to be with you today. And just to apologize that I didn't manage finally to be physically with you today due to last-minute commitments. I would have really liked to be with you not just for this session, which will be very interesting. Many interesting members of the panel are with us, but also to have the opportunity to discuss informally about how you, RTOs, could contribute to the implementation of our flagship policy that we have currently in DG Research and Innovation, the European research area. And I would like also to take the opportunity already to congratulate EARTO and EURECAT for organizing this event at a very appropriate moment, a moment where we are honestly working very closely together with member states and stakeholders, including RTOs, in order to deliver the big political objectives of the Union. And the green and digital transitions is the key objectives that this Commission put as the core of its activities. So, great initiative, great title, which demonstrates the commitment of RTOs already to the core political priorities of the Commission, but your commitment also to engage in a dialogue with the Commission services and beyond. So this is what we call in DG R&I co-creation, and we're extremely happy that we can do that with you. European research area. I think you're all familiar with European Research Area, has been established under the treaty. It is the framework of collaboration between the Commission and the Member States and between the Member States in order to establish the single market for researchers and knowledge, where it is a real single market for research and innovation, where researchers, innovators, and knowledge could be freely move between countries, between regions, so that we will be able to upgrade our research and innovation system and to deliver excellent results that could bring an added value to our economy, to our citizens. This has been there for 20 years, but under the mandate of this commission and the leadership of Commissioner Gabriel, we did an in-depth revision of the European research area. Why? Because we had a lot of success stories. Among those, it was the role of research infrastructures with huge investments that were put by the member states on delivering fantastic and excellent research infrastructure across Europe. But we realized that despite the excellent results, it is difficult to take up those results and to bring new technologies and deliverables in the market. We realized that we still have a lot of divide among the different member states, and we realized that more work needs to be done to upgrade our system, to make it more excellent, and to make it more focused on the purpose of big political priorities, so that investments across the Union, also from public and private sector, will be directed to key political priorities. And in this particular case, we're talking about the green and digital transition. So you see that the new era is not only about an excellent research and innovation system. It's not only about basic research, which is at the very heart of the era, but it's also about how we can create more value about our results, how we can bring those results to the market, how we can better link the work that we are doing from basic research through pathways to the industrial needs and the industrial developments. And to do so, apart from a communication that the Commission adopted in 2020, we have put a very challenging political agenda that we have created together with the member states and stakeholders over 2021, and it was adopted in November 2021. What was in this ambitious political agenda? First, a pact for research and innovation, which has three main elements, or four. The first one is values and principles. How we think, we, the European, that there are the more important values and principles, the fundamental values and principles that we have to follow in order to deliver research and innovation. Second, priorities areas on which we think that we have to focus our activities in the years to come. And here I'm talking about more medium to long-term periods. The third was about how we can direct best investments on research and innovation activities, and how we can increase the investments on the R&D targets that we have put already in the past. The 3% R&D targets, it's still our priority, and there is a possibility also for member states to define their own voluntary targets for investments. And the fourth, it is about a new governance that should be inclusive, and it should bring on the same table of discussion Commission, member states, the associated countries, and of course the stakeholders. Second important political development agreed by the Council was this new governance. And there is a new era forum. This is the first time that we have a place, whereas, as I said, Member States, Commission, and stakeholders, they can discuss together. And they can discuss together on how we put in place and in motion the new era, and how we can deliver what it was the third deliverable from the policy package, a very ambitious era policy agenda with 20 actions that needs to be delivered in a period of 3 years by 2024. So where we are today, this political package has been adopted. The discussions in the ERA Forum, the new governance, has been initiated, very intense discussions where stakeholders are participating, including EARTO, on those topics that it's most relevant for the activities of EARTO. And I would like here to take the opportunity to thank Miriel and EARTO members for all the contributions that they have done over the last 2 years in delivering and preparing this new ERA policy agenda, but even more the work that we are doing together with you nowadays in order to deliver the implementation of this ERA policy agenda. As I said, there are 20 actions, and for those that they have seen those 20 actions, they are actions starting from issues related to open access and how we can share data, fair data, issues related to the career of researchers and the research reform of the research assessment, but also issues that are very much related to how we can develop value of our research results, knowledge valorization, and how we can contribute with our research results to green and digital transition, how we can bring results to the market, to the business, and what is the process to do so. And if you look closely to those actions, you will also see how important focus we have put on the role of research and technology infrastructures, because we clearly consider that it will be the means or the part of the RNI system which will enable us to have this pathway from basic research through the different TRLs, through experimentation and testing, up to the industrial ecosystem, and make use of the results for the business and for the society. So, a very ambitious policy agenda, a lot of discussions nowadays in the forum, where we stand. Now we are at the phase that during the first months of 2022, we have focused very much on analyzing the different actions, concretizing the different actions, and making more transparent and concrete what we expect to deliver. And this work was done together with member states, associated countries, and stakeholders. This work has finished. Now we are at the moment where we ask our member states and stakeholders to express their commitments to the different actions. And I'm saying that because delivering the ERA policy agenda is not something just for the Commission, just for DG RNI. It's not something that will come only through investments from Horizon Europe program and other programs that they invest on research and innovation activities. It's a political agenda that should be delivered only if there is a strong commitment from the member states that they are ready to communicate these actions, to commit financially on this action, or even with new reforms that they have to do in the member states. But even more for the stakeholders, universities, RTO, research organizations, that they are the ones that actually they are doing the research and innovation activities. So we expect that we will receive those commitments by the middle of July, and therefore we'll be able to have an overview and to present to the member states how, where we are with the first commitments of all these actions, and then really to start the implementation of the actions. EARTO and its members, they have been very much involved in this process, and they have been very much involved also as partners in Horizon Europe programs. We have to think that the activities of the Horizon Europe program are not decoupled from what we are doing in the ERA. If you look at the ERA policy agenda, and in particular in the areas related to green and digital transition or an activity on missions and partnerships, we expect that the Horizon Europe program with this activity and funding is going to contribute heavily to the implementation of the ERA policy agenda, but also in association and collaboration and with commitments also, financial commitments as well, coming from the member states. So it is a package, it comes together, and we will try more and more now internally in the Commission to look at the whole governance approach on how research and innovation programs will meet the objectives on the ERA political agenda, so it goes together, is coherent, but also how other activities and political priorities that they are taking place in other parts of other policy areas and other instruments could also contribute to the implementation of the ERA policy agenda. Allow me, Muriel, now to say a few words about 2 or 3 ERA actions in the policy agenda that I know that they are very much in your heart. Starting with the action related to knowledge valorization and to the IP. So during the last years, we have been working very closely together with member states and stakeholders in order to prepare the guiding principles for knowledge valorization. This is an important deliverable that we expect to have at the end of the year. But also, we would like to develop together the codes of practices for the smart use of intellectual properties and standardization. So this is a package of new papers that we are developing centrally in the Commission, an exercise that requested a lot of work with different stakeholders and a lot of discussions. A large community of practice has been established in order to steer this exercise together with the Commission services and the different stakeholders and collecting input from different participants. And I would very happy to see that many EARTO members and RTOs were participating in this community. The code of the second code for IP will look at standardization as a means to facilitate the uptake of innovative solutions by a wide range of stakeholders, notably industry. And the public consultation is planned to be launched in the next days. We expect that both codes will be ready by the end of the year. So I would like just to strongly encourage you to continue to work with us in this context. And we are looking very much forward to receive further input and sharing of your experience and best practices through the EU Knowledge Valorization Platform. The second part that I would like to mention is the activities that we have foreseen in the context of research infrastructures and technology infrastructures. Allow me to highlight the importance that we give and the importance that we know that both types of infrastructures they have in the context of providing excellent knowledge, excellent science, and new fundamental knowledge, but also to attract the best talents, researchers, highly qualified engineers, technicians, and students. But research infrastructures and technology infrastructures, they are important actors in local innovation ecosystems. And we believe that the activities and the work they can do, it will really create an added value to economic development of this ecosystem, but also to promote new technologies, deep tech, and to attract the new depth companies and SMEs, and to create local industries with the support of those infrastructures. Research infrastructure and technology infrastructures in particular can be used by industry to develop, test, and upscale technology to advance from the laboratory up to the high TRLs prior to competitive market entry. So we strongly support the promotion of both types of infrastructures in the next steps, and in particular in making possible to deliver the knowledge that we need and the technologies that we need for the European leadership. So how we address that in the ERA policy agenda? In the ERA policy agenda, there is one action, Action 12, with the title Accelerating the Green and Digital Transition of Europe's Key Industrial Ecosystems, who has different parts and different aspects among priorities. Among those, one is very much focusing on the role of technology infrastructures in this area and how we accelerate the green and digital transition and how we can bring closer the research results to the technology. So what we have done during the last year in order to promote this file and to promote this new policy. First of all, the Commission published a policy brief in December 2021, and in January 22, a conference and a workshop report has been prepared in collaboration with JRC and EARTO towards the implementation of a new strategy for technology infrastructures. There are also a number of outputs from dedicated workshops, seminars, and webinars that have been organized, and all of those highlighting the importance of these infrastructures as key elements for the R&I ecosystem, but also gives ideas and inspiration for the work ahead for us related to European strategy for technology infrastructures. Now, what we expect to do in the next steps. First of all, because we want to test the role of technology infrastructure on pilot areas, we are planning to establish an advisory group, and actually very soon we are going to launch an expression of interest for whoever wants to participate to this advisory group, research performing organizations, universities, research infrastructure and technology infrastructure operators, ERIC forum representatives, and ESFRI representatives, in order to identify those areas that could test the technology infrastructures. So this advisory board will help us to identify the technology infrastructure pilot areas and reflects the needs on key industrial technology and circular economy roadmaps. So in this way, we can have a model that then we see how we can expand and use relevant technology infrastructure landscape and value chains by policymakers and users, and foster interconnections between complementary technology infrastructures at European level. Access conditions for technology infrastructures has been identified in this context one of the key elements. Therefore, we attend to develop in cooperation with technology infrastructure manager and user access conditions that are on transparent, non-discriminatory basis and on market terms. This work will benefit also the ongoing landscape analysis and methodology for research infrastructures, which we should not be associated with what we are doing today. Also, the activities are aiming at consolidating the European strategy for technology infrastructures and road mapping methodology to underpin the European technology infrastructure landscape. This will be done in cooperation with member state stakeholders and including users. So we have to take stock of the policy initiative, the programs that support technology infrastructures as well at regional, national, and European level, and to consider and develop a mechanism to link sectorial roadmaps, prioritization, and coordination of investments in technology infrastructures also at European level. So we are at this place now of developing this new strategy. Unfortunately, I cannot say more right now, but we hope that at the end of the year or beginning of 2023, we will be able to come up with further ideas, and hopefully in 2023 to have an adoption of this new strategy for technology infrastructures. I conclude by saying that the Commission is committed to facilitate the work of the advisory board as well as the strategy work in a very constructive way, in a very inclusive way, with everybody around the table. So I hope, Muriel, as an introduction is enough, and looking forward to have an interesting discussion with you and to reply as much as I can to your questions. Thank you.
So I see Anna is back with us, so that's good. Thank you so much, Anna. You got a big clap. I don't know if you can hear it back, but thanks, so great. Looking at time, I think I have one question, because the people here in the room will be interested to know how to support. Of course, we'll be more than happy to support the advisory board on the technology infrastructure. I think that will be quite key for the Action 12 of ERA, and we're very supportive. So now you will wait for member states' commitment. All our members are very connected to their ministry, so we have quite some link. We receive basic finance, so we are in discussion both with the Ministry of Research and often of the Ministry of Economic Affairs as well, and if not more ministry as well, for depending per RTOs. Can we help you to get commitments by member states? I mean, should our members take action here? How can we help in the process that is coming up with commitment decisions?
So we have launched a very inclusive process. And as you know, Muriel, you have been in the meetings of the forum. The position of member states differs from action to action. There are member states that they are very much supportive to some actions because it's based on their political priorities, others that they are less supportive. But we all know that what the Council asked us to do, it was the agreement of the member states, is that to keep the actions in the ERA policy agenda, we need to have at least half of the member states committed to the action. What we have tried to do, we have tried to prepare a template where the member states, they can express their commitments in a very flexible way. So I think what you could do, if you are committed yourself to participate to one or the other action, there are two ways. One, to express your commitment as the EARTO, as stakeholders directly to us, but secondly, to influence the member states that you are located by explaining how important the action is for you and how from your side you are ready to commit this specific action. I think we have to try to tackle from both sides. There will be a state of play discussion at the Council, Competitiveness Council on the 10th of June, and a more in-depth discussion at the ERAC meeting in September. So there is still time to have this dialogue at member state level, and I'm sure that depending on the organization of the member state, there are member states that are very proactive and active to establish this dialogue with stakeholders, and other less. So that really depends from member state to member state.
Thank you very much, and I think it makes clear that people have a few weeks and few months to make sure that the actions they are supporting, at least at their level, is also picked up at national level. So I think that's a great message. It's great timing with the template of commitments being finalized on the side. So I think thank you very much, Anna. Question of time, and we will stop here and jump to the next speaker. But thank you very much again for joining us. So the next speaker is Merete Clausens, coming from the European Commission and from DG GROW. We had a lot of work together. So Merete is the Director for Investment, so that's always a crucial topic for us. So I think with no due delay, Merete, I leave you the floor. If you want to switch, you just have the switcher here.
Thank you very much, Muriel. I don't have any slides, so no need to use the switcher. Thank you very much, EARTO, for inviting DG GROW at your annual conference. And I want also to thank EURECAT for the wonderful visit yesterday to Casa Milà. It felt like being inside the brilliant mind of Antoni Gaudí. Had he lived today, his architecture would probably have been qualified as disruptive innovation. I enjoyed it very much. There's no need to repeat what has already been said about the important role that research and technology organizations play in taking the green and digital transition forward, except to confirm that we fully share this view in DG GROW. Therefore, I will focus on how, in DG GROW's view, the Commission and the EU policies can help create additional opportunities for you, the RTOs. And here I see three main factors. First, an increased connection between research and industry. Second, the widest possible use from RTOs of the existing R&I funding offered. And third, in addition to the de-risking of innovative projects that we do through our public funding, that we also de-risk through regulation and other non-financial initiatives where needed. I will give a couple of examples later on to explain to you what I mean by this. On the first point of better connecting industry and RTOs on the innovation challenges, in DG GROW we manage several fora where this connection can be further developed and increased. The Industrial Forum is, as you probably well know, the platform where industry, industrial stakeholders such as the research institutions, member states and Commission services discuss the challenges and perspectives of the EU industry to find common solutions. I would like to personally thank you, your EARTO President, Antti. I'm not wearing my glasses, so I don't see where he is right now, but Antti, thank you for having taken such an active role in the work of the industrial forums. My colleagues in the forum describe ANTI as the strong voice of the innovation community and of the community of research and technology organizations. And we're very grateful because it's crucial for us to have the RTOs involved in the ongoing talks on how to address the major challenges for our industrial ecosystems and how to turn them into opportunities. The top priorities are the green and digital transition of the EU industries, including better diversification of energy supply sources, dealing with the EU strategic dependencies, and strengthening the single market's resilience to shocks. The threats that climate change brings to our way of living and our economy become increasingly visible every year. On top of that, the COVID pandemic was a shock that required immediate support measures for affected companies to stay afloat, and today necessitates a massive amount of recovery support for the EU economy. And as we all know, the war in Ukraine, in addition to the human tragedies that it has brought, has exacerbated the situation for the companies with further disruption of the supply chains and sharp increases in the prices of energy and other commodities. The EU needs to ramp up its manufacturing capacities. We need to invest in building resilience into our supply chains. Emerging technologies related to batteries, solar energy, hydrogen, semiconductors will play a key role in the resilience of our key supply chains in the years to come. A case at hand is the critical raw materials, such as minerals, rare earths. They're critical for the development of green and digital technologies, for the use in windmills, in computer components for smartphones, smart cards, etc., the whole Internet of Things. And this is crucial and urgent, because without these critical raw materials, there will be no digital or green transition. We need to build up capacities in the whole value chain, extracting them, processing them, recycling them, and creating alternative supply sources while respecting the social, the environmental, and the biodiversity rules and principles. The work of the Industrial Forum in this respect is to bring everyone around the table to address these and other challenges. And an important piece of work that has come out of this is the blueprint for the transition pathways. We also have pathways in DG GROW, in addition to the pathways Anna was talking about. On the basis of the work in the Industrial Forum, a transition pathway for 14 industrial clusters are being developed in partnership with the research and innovation community. The transition pathways are actionable plans to achieve a successful green and digital transition and the resilience of each ecosystem. The first transition pathway that was published in February was for the tourism sector, a sector of keen interest to you here in Barcelona, and a sector that has been very hard hit by the COVID pandemic in particular. The pathway calls for a more circular and more environmentally friendly approach to services in tourism, smart use of data, etc., and it includes innovation and critical technologies as a key element. In all the industrial sectors, it's crucial that the projects that will bring about the transitions are nurtured and brought to the stage where they can be financed by the markets. And to that effect, the Commission has also supported the establishment of several industrial alliances, for instance, for raw materials, for clean hydrogen, and for batteries, to look deeper at the project pipelines and how we can connect the projects with the financing. You're, of course, also familiar with the Enterprise Europe Network, the dense and pan-European network of organizations supporting SMEs, since a huge part of the activities is to support services and promote innovation activities within European SMEs. We are also responsible for the European industrial clusters, in which many of you RTOs take part, and the European umbrella organization called the European Clusters Collaboration Platform. And more recently, the Clusters Collaboration Platform have put in place a platform connecting EU and Ukrainian SMEs who have lost export or import markets due to the current war in Ukraine. It may also help researchers and their institutions, and there's therefore a link to this platform on the European Research Area's Ukraine web platform, ERA for Ukraine. As Anna also mentioned, one important bridge between research and industry are the research and technology infrastructures. RTOs help private companies get access to these infrastructures, most of them being financially supported by Horizon Europe. We see an increase in demand due to the many new startups and scale-ups that are being created in Europe, but also we see large regional differences in the availability of infrastructure, as well as a risk of duplication due to this fragmentation between countries. So in DG GROW, we appreciate all the efforts made by the RTOs to facilitate such access to tech infrastructures, also for SMEs and for small startups. There should be a continued dialogue on how to increase the visibility of access to tech infrastructures, how the access is given and on which conditions, including access to the smaller facilities, which are interesting for the SMEs. And finally, there should be an earlier dialogue and connections between the research and industrial communities in the field of standards. Standardization should be thought into the research from the earliest possible stage to ensure interoperability and help a quick commercialization and application of the results of the research. And to help this process, the Commission in February adopted a standardization package, presenting a new standardization strategy and a proposal for an amendment to the regulation on standardization. It also includes useful soft law initiatives, such as a code of practice for researchers on standardization that will be developed to strengthen the link between standardization and the research community. Now moving to my second point on how to make full use of R&I programs. Transformation of research and knowledge into innovation is the best way to create jobs and add value in our economy. But the innovation requires a high level of investment with high risk for investors. So the public funds are needed to de-risk the innovative projects. We can do much more to ensure that innovative technologies, including those that are supported by Horizon Europe, find their way to scale up, if appropriate, with funding from the European Innovation Council and the InvestEU program. The European Innovation Council, or the EIC, Pathfinder and accelerators, which are part of the Horizon Europe research program, are complementary to InvestEU in that it supports very early stage, startup type of companies with the potential to create new markets or disrupt existing ones. And then we have InvestEU, which builds on the successful guarantee model of the European Fund for Strategic Investments, which was also known as the Juncker Plan, helping to de-risk investments and bring other investors in, including private investors. It offers over 26 billion euros in guarantees to financial intermediaries who are willing to find projects and fund them in support of EU policies. And some of these 26 billions are intended specifically for research, innovation, and digitalization projects, about a quarter of it. And it will finance investments in line with the EU policy priorities, such as the European Green Deal, the European Digital Decade that Thomas spoke of, and the renovation wave to make our buildings energy efficient. And of course also our SME strategy, because SMEs are the backbone of our economy. So I see an important role for the research and technology organizations in promoting the rate of research projects that apply for and get funded through our programs, and ultimately lead to innovative processes, products, and services being scaled up by the industry. My final point is that we, the Commission, as policymakers and initiators of EU legislation, can help opportunities materialize by providing other types of de-risking than money and financial guarantees, indirectly supporting the innovation. An example could be projects for development of innovative ways of extracting or recycling raw materials. We can de-risk such projects by looking into other obstacles than lack of access to finance. For instance, rules for permitting, licenses, and methodologies for defining exactly what sustainable means in this sector. Another example, state aid rules should also be designed in a way to ensure that they allow for the necessary public support to adapt our economies and equip our companies to face the new challenges, which are often of global character, such as the COVID pandemic, followed by the Ukrainian war, disrupting supply chains and creating shortages and uncertainty about future business. A third area of importance is intellectual property right protection, which EU companies and SMEs in particular sometimes struggle with obtaining to protect the results of the innovation and become attractive investment objects. Here, we are at full speed in implementing the Commission's IP action plans of 2020, which contained a number of actions, legislative and non-legislative. An example is the SME IP Fund, which offers vouchers to SMEs to partly cover registration costs and costs of legal and other advice, and which we are implementing together with the EU Intellectual Property Office, the EU IPO in Alicante. And my final example of such flanking measures to de-risk the projects, if you will, is the Get Digital Go Green initiative, which DG GROW is in the process of launching. It aims to create more demand for innovative digital solutions made in Europe, creating an EU-wide catalog of digital use cases with a focus on sustainability. So this demand-side action should cross-fertilize good ideas, spread them to other companies and sectors, and bring about the innovative green companies that will help solve environmental challenges with the help of digital technologies such as AI, 5G, cloud and edge computing, and so on. So now I've given you a bit of a tour d'horizon of initiatives of DG GROW, and I hope this has helped enlarge your view of the scope of funding and other opportunities for all RTOs. Thank you very much.
I hope technique can make it work. Yeah, great. As we have Merete in live, I think we have to take profit. And if there is any question in the room, because I think Merete mentioned quite a long set of topics where we are active in, not only just standardization, IP, state aid, and of course all the discussion around the industrial value chain. So I don't know if there is any burning question to Merete for those who are here. Not yet, so while you're thinking it, I think I have one. We did quite a lot of discussions both on state aid, of course, but also on the discussion around standardization. And what do you think the next challenges will be? Because with state aid, we're not yet finalized, so we had a lot of comments ourselves on trying to push and promote investments in our technology infrastructure, especially for de-risking. What we often see, and I think that's probably one of the best examples we saw of the European industrial policy thinking industrial policy with a parallel RDI program. For us, that was the European Chip Act, which is being set in motion. Do you expect other acts in similar ambitions coming up from DG GROW and from all the work done on the different value chain and sectors that need help at the moment in Europe?
Well, I've mentioned raw materials several times, and we are, of course, looking into what sort of legislation could also be useful to further the European raw material agenda. Now, this is, of course, also linked to the question of the energy crisis, if you will, that we are currently experiencing with soaring prices on energy. And today, or in the very near future, there will be a communication on that has already been announced on Repower EU, which should contain, I think, some pointers on what we could expect in the future, both from the legislative angle, but also other initiatives. But to be seen when this is adopted, exactly what it's going to entail.
Yeah, super. So I think a lot of our members working on energy, we had quite some example this morning, will be also very interesting to follow, especially looking at more probably system approach than just a specific tech. So thank you very much, Merete, for taking the time for being here, and glad you enjoy also the innovative architecture that we saw yesterday. So I think
It was my pleasure. Thank you,
Thank
Marielle.
you very much. And I will invite the last speaker for this afternoon before we have our panel. We have with us Nicola De Michelis, who is Director Smart and Sustainable Growth Program Implementation in DG Regio. So we are in Catalonia. We started actually with the regional aspects, so it's great to have you also closing in a way with regional policy. So looking very much forward to your speech. So Nicola, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share with you some reflection on where we are on, in particular on cohesion policy and the structural fund. We are living an extraordinary moment. And I'm not thinking of the crisis that is unfolding in Ukraine or the disruption brought about by the pandemic. I'm thinking about the fact that only a couple of years ago, nobody would have thought that the Commission would have made operation on financial markets to put together the biggest investment plan ever. And this is an extraordinary opportunity. But with extraordinary opportunities come extraordinary challenges. Because if there's one thing that we will not lack in Europe over the next few years is money. I am responsible for the operation of the structural funds in the south of Europe, from Portugal to Greece, going through Spain and Italy. These countries will have to multiply by 4 their capacity to spend European money. Only in the field of research and innovation, we are talking, only for cohesion policy, we are talking about 80 billion euro that need to be negotiated with the member states, on top of all the resources that will come through the resilience and recovery facility, and on top of what comes through all the other EU funds. And the risk when there is a lot of money is that the pressure to spend that money is that we will finance a bit of everything. And that projects disconnected from any strategy in isolation will be financed because the money needs to be spent. I still remember a case study back at the beginning of the 2000s in which we look at one region in this country, in which the structural fund financed 4 incubators, 5 science parks, and I don't know how many laboratories, and after a few years, very few of those investments were still operating because the running cost of maintaining those infrastructure were too high, and because those infrastructure were no longer in line with the economic tissue and structure of that region. And this is why, and you know it, we have introduced in the field of cohesion policy the smart specialization strategies, because we needed an instrument to put together all the actors operating in the field of research, development, and innovation, and bang their heads and decide to develop a vision, a shared vision of what investment are needed, having a medium-term horizon. We want to see and decide where we want to be in 10 years' time, and to allocate resources according to that vision. Are these strategy all okay? No, they're not. Of course they're not. Some of them are too broad. Some of them have not, in fact, focused on the few sectors that we hoped for. Some of them have paid lip service to the partnership around which those strategies should have been organized and implemented. But I still think that they have the merit to exist, because without them it's very difficult to see how we can organize investment in that area in a consistent way. What are we doing to try to improve the way in which strategies operate? Well, we are doing 4 things. First, we are concentrating, and this is the dialogue we are having right now with the member states and the regions. We are concentrating on the governance of these strategies. We are asking the member states and the regions, how are you ensuring that all the partners have been involved, that all the voices have been heard? How have you reacted and responded to the ideas that came forward? Is to ensure that that dynamic process, that is the very nature of these strategies, is actually functioning. The second thing we are doing, and you certainly heard about it because you are participating, is to open up these strategies, because these strategies were largely looking at the regional territory. And we thought that there was a need for them to look up and connect with other regions that were doing the same things. And this is how the I3 instruments was constructed, precisely to link together regions operating on the same value chains. The third thing we are doing, we are providing a number of technical assistance support. Again, you may have heard about the community of practice, that we are setting up the platform, the partnerships, the technical support instruments that provide funding and to construct a combination of investment and reforms. So my final take here is that this is the moment to engage. This is the moment to engage with the regions, because this is the discussion that we are having now. The regions are revising their strategies. The regions are rethinking whether their strategies are still up to date. And this is the moment for you, for all the actors, to engage in that debate. Not in 2 years' time, now. And tell us what works and what doesn't work. Tell us what is missing. I read your paper and your proposal on public procurement, but this is for Merete, not for me. This is really a call for action and for participation and dialogue with our counterparts, the regional governments and the member states. Thank you very much.
Any question? Because I think it's quite interesting, and especially I think I will remember that the amounts of funding that are coming and the capabilities that are needed to think in the right projects to be invested in, I think that's quite a striking, and there is quite a lot of different instruments that you have at hand also given the regions to do so. So quite impressive, I think, and the idea that you'll not spend it in small things. I'm sure that the RTOs here in the room will have to think further, and at least these are the figures for the south of Europe. I'm sure there is other figures up north as well, and more to Eastern Europe, so it will be quite interesting to hear. Any comment or questions on the regionalization, especially from the RTOs which have regional associations, especially in Spain? I'm sure it will be interesting to pick the brain of Nicola? No? You guys had too much lunch. I have one question. What do you think how do you see, I mean, you're working with member states and then below the regions for implementation of the program. What do you think, and where do you see that the consultancy, that all the people which are here, which are then on the research infrastructure, could do in the discussion with their regions to come up with like maybe bigger plans? Is that going to be on technology infrastructure? Is it going to be more on ecosystem building? I mean, how do you see that we, as a constituency of research infrastructure and technology infrastructure, could, help us towards maybe some bigger goals?
Look, it's interesting because I'm having with the teams exactly this conversation these days with Spain and Portugal. And what we are telling them is not up to the Commission to tell you what to do, because we are too far away from the ground to know what the needs are. But what we ask them is to ensure that they have talked to all the actors. And there is a bit of a misunderstanding, I think, out there on this idea that the Commission in the field of cohesion policy is not in favor of financing infrastructure. That's not true. What we are saying is that those infrastructures need to be connected to that strategy, because we don't want to end up with cathedral in the desert. And this is the type of discussion and conversation that you need to have. It's not up to me to tell you what is needed, that you need to have with all the other partners in the different regions. And this is why I'm really urging you to probably you're already doing it, but if you're not, to start now, because by the end of this year we will have to have adopted all the 300-something program that will govern the use of these resources for the next 10 years.
So quite a call of actions like Anna, but on another strengths with regional, let's say, plans, and hopefully with innovation plans in those regional plans. I know that some of our members had it easy in the discussion with their regions, and I know some others less. And I know that the colleagues in the GRC have tried to help us with that, so we did quite some work in the role of RTOs with regions, but I think we would be happy to think further if there is some areas where we can help regions to think which type of stakeholders they have to invite at the table when it's not. I think we'd be happy to support such discussions, I think, further. So thanks a lot. Thanks, Nicola. Much appreciated. And I'm going to call, and so I'm going to switch microphone again. I think I have to leave them, so if not, they don't know which one they have to follow me with. So I'm going to start the panel. So if I can call in the last 3 speakers that we will discuss a little bit all this European policy from an RTO perspective. So first we have Matthias Rausch, who is the Director European Research Area, among others. I will shortcut your title. You may correct me, Matthias, for the rest. In Fraunhofer in Germany. So thank you, Matthias, for joining us. Then we have Jesus Valero is the CEO of Tecnalia, located in the Basque regions. Thank you, Jesus. And take one of the seats with one of the mics, so at least we know those are working. And of course, last but not least, we have Dirk Seiseta, which is managing all the European affairs and international affairs in LETAT, which is another of our great members in Catalonia. So Dirk, please come to us. So let's start with the shorts. I will do one by one just to have your impression. We did the whole wide world, I think, with all the European policy that we had on view this afternoon, and maybe then I pick up one of the policy more than another with some of you. So maybe Matthias, what's your take on all the new actions and challenges that are waiting for us also with European level? Is there one area where you think, okay, hey, this is where we have to be very strongly looking at and be careful with, or be very active with?
Well, we as RTOs are very diverse as well, right? So most of us will have one or the other construction site. We as one of the larger RTOs are certainly involved in most of them. And what we've witnessed here after lunch was basically a rough ride through all of the, not only the 4 DGs that contributed to our interesting afternoon, but also the whole range of topics and areas that we are active in as RTOs, which I think proves that we are systemically relevant, and that we are happily contributing to all of these files, as the Commission colleagues would call that, so all of these issues. From my personal point of view, there are a couple of, let's say, pivotal actions at the moment, and one of them is certainly connected to what Thomas has presented about the European Chips Act. We, as a very active contributor, together with all the other RTOs that are active in microelectronics, will see it as a huge opportunity. But we are also still curious to find out how we'll make this whole thing fly, particularly when it comes to financing. And to something that is very close to our heart, and that is the sustainability of what we do now. So how do we protect the investments that are to be made also in the long run? It's always very nice, and I think we all share that view, to have massive investments in terms of CapEx and infrastructure, but then the question of OpEx also arises. and how do you sustain all these activities over an extended period of time, because you cannot renew the capex every couple of years, because we are already heavy lifting those investments. So maybe so much for now, and I'm happy to contribute later.
Thanks, Matthias. And Dirk, if I pick your brain a little bit on the regionalization, because we are in Catalonia, so we heard also the president of the business part in the region this morning with Albert, who kind of said that he was kind of counting on the RTOs. Compared to what Nicola said, do you feel that you really have also a good connection? It seems that the connection was running well this morning. Do you expect more support if you see that there is quite some financing coming in? So a little bit of your view on this, and of course, please feel free to comment on the rest.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have that much time, but I would like to first thank you for the opportunity, and thanks the EARTO team, and also give a special thanks to Joan Wask for making this event possible in Barcelona, the city that I was born and raised. We have listened to many topics today, so very interesting, all of them. I would like to comment on a couple of them. I coincide with Matthias. Okay, the European Chip Act is a very ambitious plan. To produce 20% of the semiconductors in the world is obviously very ambitious. And we have in Spain a good example of alignment between member states and EU policies with the strategic project in microchips with 11 billion euro investment that hopefully invest not only the supply chain, but in the whole value chain, which is also important for us. Then I wanted to talk about digital innovation hubs, technology infrastructures, and also the testing and experimentation facilities. The AC has invested during the last multi-annual financial framework 500 million in creating, constructing, building infrastructures. But this is a very good investment for creating what I coincide with Matthias, or what's going on for operating these infrastructures. So the 20% rate of indirect costs in H2020 are very welcome, but still scarce to manage and to run these infrastructures. Okay, and later we have a good example of that. We have a digital innovation hub, a full operational hub in 3D, but we still rely on private funding, so almost 100%. Okay. So after all these speeches from the Commission and also from today, I think that the times are changing, but our positioning remains the same. So we're facing climate change, we're facing pandemics. On top of that, Ukraine, a very close neighbor of us, is being invaded. It's not a war, it's an invasion. And what's next? What's next? Financial crisis, taxation, I don't know what's next. But consider all this conjuncture. I mean, we can say it very loud that we are, as RTOs, we are adaptive animals. Okay? That we've shown resilience and leadership, and on top of that, we give a very neutral vision on the ecosystem. So we can put many EARTO papers as example. And for now, it's good.
Thank you very much, Dick. So, Jesus, I mean, you're managing one of the largest RTO in Spain with Tecnalia. So, and you are also in an innovative region, another one, a little bit more up north. You had your challenges. It's more than a year now that you are CEO of Tecnalia. And when you hear all those policies, coming your way, how do you see that in terms of managing your future investments, looking at the future legal framework that comes with IP, standardization, open science, and the challenges of infrastructure investments that we discussed in different angles? So what do you think you're taking all of these policy? Will they help you in your job as CEO, or do you have these challenges coming your way?
Okay, there was a lot of information in just 1 hour, so a lot of things to think about and to use it. But first, I would like to say that I received a message, which is the positive view that the European Commission has on the role of RTOs. the interest on our participation, the interest on having us as a key agent for transformation. And I will put a couple of examples to that. One is DG Connect says that 75% of the European companies have to digitalize cloud, edge computing, and so on. I think we are a key agent to do that. I mean, we are mostly working with SMEs, and 75% of the companies in Europe are almost SMEs, or more than that. So we are going to be a key agent, and the European Commission understands this is an important part for us. And also we are not only somebody that can provide a support to do that, but also somebody which is key to accelerate. And I'm going to put an example with quantum computing. So we decided 2 years ago to launch our own program of quantum computing, thinking, okay, nobody's asking quantum computing right now, maybe in 5 years, or maybe in 10, but we have to start because we have to anticipate to the needs of the industry. After 2 years of program, we have the several contracts with companies on quantum computing. That means that the bets that we can do are not only going to develop an industry in Europe, but they're going to accelerate the development of the industry, and that's an important thing for me. And on the negative side, I will say that I have heard several times the word bridge between science and industry, and I don't consider myself a bridge. We are not a bridge between science and industry. We are a tool for industry. We stay all the day discussing with industry what are their needs, how can we solve them, and in some cases, we look back to the science part and use the things that they have developed if we don't have the right technologies to be developed by our own, which in most of the cases we have. So I think that technology transfer is like considering that RTOs are like Amazon, bringing something that somebody very smart at the academia is developing to the industry, and then come back to sit at our offices waiting for the next order. Okay, and I consider this is not the way. This is not a linear thing. This is a continuous conversation between industry and RTOs.
Thank you very much, Jesus. I think that's a great way. So I think we will use the word orchestrator of systems or system solutions provider. Probably we had also Ari telling, well, I just work for industry, so nice societal challenge, but if it works with industry. So I think the industrial perspective is very important. Maybe, Matthias, on the technology infrastructure, on this Action 12 that Anna was defining, we have quite of a challenge coming up our way. So half of the member states have to commit to that action, if not something is just simply not happening. That would be, I think, strange for us that nothing is happening. But should we make a call here, or do you expect this to go? Do you think it will be easy for us to have 12, at least 15 member states saying, yes, we go on?
Oh yes, I'm pretty positive about that. For many reasons. First of all, I think from a member state perspective, I can only tell about the member state where I'm from, which is Germany, because one of the, again, the bigger ones, one of the more invested ones in the European research area, they will definitely support it. I already know about some other member states that will as well. We've already heard that there is at the moment certainly no shortage of investment opportunities, but also fluid cash, particularly in the southern parts of Europe. So they'll be interested in as well, not only to spend the money, but spend it well, and spend it connected to the actual strategies. So I think there are a lot of incentives for the member states to buy into this agenda. Yes.
Okay, thanks. I think we'll be pushing for that, and I hope all the members here active will take actions to make sure that the different ministries are aligned. I think that's maybe one of the challenges when it comes to ERA actions. Dirk, on your side, you mentioned the difficulties for sometimes for CapEx, not only OpEx, which was also mentioned by Matthias before. In the discussion you have with regions, because you say a lot of coming as still from private investments, would there be any tool where you see we could be supported for this type of discussions where maybe sometimes we don't feel that supported? And like Jesus was saying, we do it all anyway.
Yes, well, I mean, the European projects, the H2H Horizon Europe are the most important tool for a mid-sized RTO like us. Okay, then we can go also to tenders and to national funds. I'm thinking of new ways of co-funding, new partnerships that ensure the future of these infrastructures. So we, until now, we have worked on demand, also in line with what our colleague Jesus said. So we are in constant touch with the industry. We try to meet their demands, and then we build on their requirements. But a little bit of push in terms of money from the public institution would be very nice in order to not to become a service RTO or a service company. So to keep being very disruptive.
Okay, thanks. So still the importance also of the European RDI programs for supporting the activities in certain environments. Okay, noted. Jesus, you were mentioning digitalization, right? And in the topic of our conference, we also have let's say, the green transition. So on digitalization, you said that, you know, the work of RTOs to accelerate digitalization of SMEs will probably be key. What do you think about the greening, especially that Merete was just mentioning that now there is the Repower Europe, so the whole big strategy on how to be less dependent probably of Russia on energy. Do you think that RTOs will play a big role? I mean, we have also a lot of funding coming with a recovery fund. I don't know who it is in Spain and how you look at those funds, but with the greening, what's your view on the role of RTOs here?
For me, the role of RTOs on the Green Deal is slightly different to the digital transformation. I mean, because any solution that we want to implement on Green Deal needs a very big investments from pilot testing. I mean, we are very active on wind energy, for instance, on hydrogen solutions and so on, and connecting renewable energy production with hydrogen production, with smart grids and so on. And this needs huge investments for RTOs to develop solutions. Probably the biggest investments that we have done to develop startups in technology have been in this area of Green Deal, hydrogen production, wind energy. So for that, I consider that technology infrastructures are key to be able to develop such potential impacts. And then there are a couple of things that are missing. We discussed quite a lot during these days about funding of technological infrastructures. So all of us share the point of view that we need specific frameworks for RTOs regarding funding of technological infrastructures. But for me, more important than the money, which is always important, is that we need to coordinate 3 levels: European Commission, states, and regions. And I'm sorry to say that this is not well connected right now. And I think it was Nicola who mentioned fragmentation, who mentioned different speed of the regions. Okay, these are 2 key problems, especially the second one for the south countries of Europe, where sometimes the expenditure on R&D, the political stability is less than in other countries, and there is a difficult connection in order that all the regional, national, and European Commission levels coordinate to fund a project or a technological infrastructure for RTOs.
So quite a various activities that the RTOs perform in reality. So and last question that we do a small turn and then we will have to close quite time, but with the European policy come also European legal framework, yeah? So we heard state aid, we heard also IP, standardization, so we have a role probably on standardization, we do have a role with IP making, we do have a role with supporting international standardization as well. We have the frame of state aid that we have to adhere to and be compliant, so Is there things where you see things will be blocking us for the next step, especially if there is a lot of finances? I'm sure the state aid rules will apply. And in the same time, do you think that there is things where we could provide even more support to the European Commission in their policies? Or maybe, Matthias, you want to pick that up?
Yeah, thanks. I was just thinking about the plans of the Commission to now implement this doing no harm rule to our activities, and I would like just to to turn that around and ask our colleagues that produce the legal and administrative framework to also comply to that concept and do no harm, which is basically what Christian Ehler now from the European Parliament nowadays calls the imperial overstretch. So it's become a little bit too heavy. We are very much over-regulated, and this starts with very simple tasks. When you try, how do you bill your electricity bill for your clean room when you do projects for the European framework program and also with private clients? This for someone outside of our community, this almost sounds absurd, yeah. And I think in this way, this is no commission bashing and no lawyer bashing, but it is just to say it has become very, very complex, and we should do all the efforts to reduce this kind of complexity. And we are more than willing to contribute to the efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Maybe one last word for Dick, and then from Jesus. What's your take on the conference and on all the discussion we had with the work of the OECD yesterday? So something to summarize what you're taking home from today. Okay,
thank you for avoiding the question of IP standardization, because it was a difficult one. But yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, my final conclusion is that we have a big challenge for the future years. I mean, of course, is contributing to this green, digital, and green transition. But in my opinion, this cannot be only achieved by putting infrastructures in place and putting our equipment in place, but we have to think of the people. Joan Quash this morning told us that people are at the heart of the RTOs. Okay, I think talent will be the scarcest resource in the future, and I think we have to play a very key role on reskilling and upskilling professionals. So this is one of our duties for the future, and has been mentioned very few during the conference. And I think that also along with our mission, we need also policies and investment going in the same direction. So towards training people and considering these skills.
Thank you, Dirk. Yeah, we didn't discuss skills, so maybe that's another topic for another EARTO event to pick up. Jesus, the last word to you.
Yeah, I was reading the OECD document, and I think it's a very valuable tool for RTOs, a lot of information, and something that we much needed. Because I think there is something that we are failing completely, RTOs. Yesterday, when we visited the La Pedrera, the lady that was explaining La Pedrera was continuously talking about how amazing and creative was Gaudí to design and to imagine this beautiful building that we saw. But I was thinking while we were visiting the building that, okay, it's absolutely clear that he is a genius by thinking and imagining this building. But this is TRL 1 and TRL 2, okay? So then there is somebody, a guy, that was there on Monday mornings at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, discussing with him, and he's telling him, okay, now the window has to be in this shape and in this way, and then the guy has to do this in a real scenario. nobody knows the name of the guy. Everyone remembers Gaudí. He was the guy from TRL3 to TRL9. We are these guys, okay? The problem is nobody knows in the society in Europe, nobody knows that we are these guys. So I think we need to implement a very clear communication plan of what we are doing. And now we have a tool, which is the OECD document, which is going to be very, very interesting for us.
Super. So thank you very much, Jesus. We will remember the Gaudí story. I think I will reuse that when I have to explain what an RTO is. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for keeping with us. I'm going to close because it's time. So I want to thank you very much all for taking the time for those 2 days, for the great discussion, for daring traveling, despite some of you having quite restrictions, especially on the international members back home that will have to face some quarantine sometime. So thanks a lot. I wanted to say also the next EARTO event is going to be on the 12th of October. We're going to be in Brussels, so I hope by then the weather in Brussels will stay like today. It was 28 degrees, so maybe we beat Barcelona soon. This is climate change, you never know. So thanks to all. I want to have a big applause also for the small hands behind. So the team of Johan and Gemma at EURECAT, and also my team with Khadija, Eleni, and Effa behind the door, and Sophie and Natalie. So big applause because it looked streamlined. So thank you very much. Have a safe trip. You did get an email this morning that there was no taxi, but we heard the taxis are back. So we wish you a good trip back. Easy in taxi, no metro. But for those who are a bit sustainable, it's 1 hour metro to go to the airport. So thanks to all and stay safe as well. See you soon.